èyí ni ìran àwọn tó ń ṣe àfẹ́rí rẹ̀.
èyí ni ìran àwọn tó ń ṣe àfẹ́rí rẹ̀.
ṣe àfẹ́rí Ọlọ́run Jákọ́bù.
tó ń ṣe àfẹ́rí rẹ̀ Ọlọ́run Jákọ́bù.
ẹ gbé orí yín sókè ìyẹn mú ọ̀nà kí a sì gbé yín sókè ẹ̀yin ilẹ̀kùn ayérayé ọba ògo tó wọlé wá. a ní ọba ògo Ọlọ́run tó ní agbára ó sì le Olúwa tó lágbára ní ogun. ẹ gbé orí yín sókè ẹ̀yin ẹnu ọ̀nà kí a sì gbé yín sókè ẹ̀yin ilẹ̀kùn ayérayé kí ọba ògo lè wọlé wá. a ní ọba ògo náà Olúwa àwọn ọmọ ogun.
In your opinion, what do you think happened to Oluoje exactly? Was it pride? Was he just overzealous? Or should we say he's still growing and is a little immature? But before we dive deep into Oluoje and the event that happened in this episode, let's talk briefly about Bamiloye's family. Again, this week, no recap. Let's just dive into the review. Let's take a moment to talk about Bamiloye's lack of sensitivity. Should we blame it on the country he is? There's this idea that people that are, abroad would usually be a little more laid back or a little laid back, spiritually. They won't be really fervent. Is it a misconception? Is it a truth? Is that one of the things they were trying to portray in this episode? You can see something really happening in your house and the first thing you and your wife are thinking about is 911. For real, bro, for real. 911, really. And the blessing of just having either a parent, someone around you who is actually spiritual, not just a believer who is not a believer. Do you get? Because Baba was very instrumental in that moment, right? Yes, he didn't he didn't listen to them in time, but we'll get to that. But Baba was very instrumental in that moment. He knew exactly what to do. He led them in the right direction. Even when something is happening with your daughter and you left the room, like, really? Baba said, go back into that room. What are you doing now, sir? What are you looking for? Go back to the room where your daughter is. It's a blessing to have Baba Abejoye in their lives and in their family. He's a blessing to us all. Let's talk about Baba not hearing them in time, because he was sharing his testimony, which is an important lesson I felt very strongly to share in this review. Is that don't only share your testimony in church, share with your friends and share with your family. My friends and I do this thing like random, maybe when we are gisting, we just say I have a testimony, and we share it in that moment, right from uni. Like, if there's if something happens, maybe as little as you were almost stranded but God came through for you, you received favor with a lecturer, we would usually share it as a testimony. It is not gist, it is a testimony. So Baba sharing the details of everything that happened with him and Kikinyu and the commissioner, he recognized it as a testimony, and it was in that moment, showing his gratitude to God, right? But yeah, we must also always remember that Baba is old, and old people will always be old people. That scene really just reminded me of my grandma. She's now late, but before, you have to tell her the same thing over and over again, and sometimes you have to call them back. You have to call them out of their space. Remember what Laide did by calling Baba's full name and calling her own full name. That was what brought him out of the space he is. It's almost like they can't concentrate on more than one thing at the same time. I don't know. They usually say old people become babies again. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of truth in that. So I will just end it there on Bamiloye's family and Dibura and all of that. But if there's any lesson you learned from that scenario and Baba coming through and praying with them, let us know in the comment section. Let us now move to Abejoye. First, I'm so happy Kikinyu put the Oloyes in their place, because remember in my last episode I was like, what exactly is their problem? Why are they just being silly all around? Yes, you don't want to talk to Kabiyesi, Oba Adishe Binti, and you don't want to, it's okay, but why are you just being silly all around? I'm so happy that Kikinyu put them in their place, and now they know they know to respect themselves and they know to stay clear of Baba Abejoye. Now let's go to where I feel like the bulk of the episode was concentrated on, which was the event between Oluoje, Baba Abejoye, Ogonwo, and Abejoye. The first lesson is that we need to walk with God per time and per season. You don't want to be where God was. Yeah, you want to be where he is at the moment. We need to work with God per time. I don't know if somehow Oluoje just felt like, this is how God has always moved with them. When someone is not feeling fine, they pray for them. When they need something, they pray. And, he has probably just not grown to that point of knowing that for every season, for every situation, you need to have instructions or receive instructions or obey instructions. Maybe we should excuse it as immaturity, but I don't even think that will count, because he had several opportunities of warnings. Oluoje calling him to order, Oluoje saying Baba specifically has said this. So what do you think it is? There are a number of scenarios or a number of excuses we can make for Oluoje, but let's start from the fact that he didn't bother asking. We were not told, he did not pray about it. He didn't ask God if God would have him pray for Abejoye. None. I think he enjoyed the power, he enjoyed the accolades, the what will I call it now? It's still power, I'll call it, because remember, they kept saying, he offended you and he's now sick, so you come and pray for him, and every time it was a thing of Oluoje did this, Oluoje did that. So maybe he was just enjoying the moment, enjoying the power, enjoying the shared glory, because really it was God that did all of that thing. They are just receiving shared glory. Another thing I noticed is that he did not, how God will do something through you as a believer and people will see you, because actually it's you they can see, but it is your responsibility to redirect them to God. There was no point in which Oluoje redirected them to God. Baba Abejoye, when one of the Oloyes came to his house and was like, they said you come and heal him, he redirected them by saying, God is the healer, God is this. It is your responsibility, it is our responsibility as believers to redirect people, men, to God, to shine the light on him, because really he's the doer of all good things. So there was no point at all where Oluoje redirected them to God, even after he had prayed for Abejoye, and the man that went with him, or that came to his house with Abejoye's wife, was saying, I will tell the people in my own town that there is now a healer, there's now a powerful person. He did not say God, it is God. He did not redirect, he did not contradict, he did not say anything. And even before healing, he kept feeling like, yes, you offended people like us. As much as it's a good thing to, boast in Christ and boast in God, we should do it with caution. The foundation of that boasting should be that it is still God. God. Our goal of that boasting should be to draw men to Christ, not men to ourselves. Yeah. So it should be to draw men to Christ, not ourselves. And after even healing him, he kept saying, now you respect people like us. I think that's just pride, to be fair. I think that's just pride. Yes, there's a place of saying, as a child of God, you can't do anything to me. But there's also knowing that it is because you're a child of God. Also, another lesson is that the power of God is not to prove a point. It is as much as that seems like a noble thing to do, no, it is not to prove a point. God is not trying to prove a point to he's God. He's not trying to prove a point to anybody. He is God. He cannot be more God than he is already. Does that make sense? So Oluoje was, I remember there was a part where Oluoje was saying, I think the part where Ogonwo told him that Baba Abejoye said, you should come and see him first. It was like, let's show these people, let's show them, let's show. There is no point trying to prove a point on God's behalf. He is God. If he wants to prove a point, he knows how to. He's done it over and over again. So if the goal is to prove a point, God sure knows how to prove a point. You don't have to prove a point for God. And I don't even think God is trying to prove a point. I think this will also fall under pride. You know how Oluoje is still in some sort of way still submitted to Baba Abejoye, because Baba Abejoye led him to Christ, and we should kind of see him like maybe a spiritual mentor or father. So I think if you're not careful as you grow, you start to feel like, I also know God, I also hear from God, I'm also a child of God, and you might start to neglect your spiritual heads and your spiritual leaders. I think that was what happened to Oluoje, where what's his name now, Ogonwo kept telling him, Baba said this explicitly. Baba said this. Baba said that God already told him not to pray for him, and so Baba said you should come and see him. And he kept saying, that's what God told him, not me. Yeah, let me go and do this. This is what I want to do. This is what it would honestly not have taken him anything to go to Baba's house and hear him out, just listen to his part of this, like what is why, but he felt like, I'm also a child of God. If I go there, and of course he's had his own wins, he's had his own testimonies, he's had his own victories of praying for people and having results. So he must have felt like, even me self, I've been they do things. Do you understand? I've been they do stuff, I've been they run things. So I think that was what got, in his head. And like I said, I think that also still falls under pride. He had so many opportunities to not do it from before he left his house, even when he got. And we should honestly just applaud Ogonwo, because I think if it's me, I've told you once, I came to your house, I will probably just give up. Go and do what you want to do. But yeah, now outside of Oluoje, I think this episode is a reminder to us that God is still all-knowing. Yeah, he is still all-knowing. He knew that Abejoye is still not repentant, so he knew that it was not even the right time for him to get healed, even if he will even get healed at all, right? God is all-knowing. Imagine you that they just healed now. You have started. Come, and you did not even stop. You did not stop at Oluoje. You now went to Baba. You self. Is that saying reminded me of, this part of the Bible, who, I don't know what king it was that first killed. Was it Peter? Was it Peter? I think it was Peter, the one that gave his daughter, I think it was Peter's head. Was it Peter? One of the disciples gave his head on a platter to his daughter because she danced, and he asked her to ask for anything. And after he did that, he now picked Paul again. So after Abejoye picked Oluoje, he went for Baba Abejoye. Just imagine that Baba Abejoye is not, aligned and, prayerful and all of that. Imagine if the early church too were not praying for Apostle Paul. Him too would have just gone like that. So it's a reminder also for us to be, it's just a reminder that as believers, we don't have off seasons. We don't have off seasons. And even for me, it is a reminder, because there are sometimes life just gets busy. I just like, I don't have time to pray, I don't have time to do this. It's not your prayer that makes you a child of God, but that you should pray. The prayer is for you, it's actually not even for God. Now a little about Baba Abejoye as we wrap this up. Where Baba Abejoye was telling Ogonwo the story of the young prophet that went to pray, and all of that. It's just it was so exact to the story, or to the situation they were facing with Ogonwo. No, sorry, to the situation they were facing with Abejoye. In that moment, I'm just like, scripture is so complete. The Bible is so complete. How some people will say, oh, it's an outdated book, it happened over 2,000 years ago, so it's not relevant. That's not true. Don't be too woke. Don't be too woke to think the Bible is out of date. Of course it is not. And don't let people push you to do what God will not have you do. Remember those Oloyes that came to visit Baba, and Baba was trying to explain to them that, oh, I'm not supposed to do this, I'm not instructed to do this. And they were just like, it's simple now. You will just stand up, you will just go, you will just pray for him, you will just come back. It sounded logical and easy and simple, but that will be him, walking in disobedience. And imagine if he just felt, actually, these people have a point. But no, don't ever let people push you to do what God will not have you do. again, this is even a message for me myself, because you know how we subtly people please. You know, it is sometimes it is very subtle, but you are people pleasing as against pleasing God. May God help us, all of us, all of us together. Yeah, what are your lessons from this episode? And again, do you think we're going to be getting a season 9? I think we'll definitely get a season 9. Of course, we might not get it anytime soon, but again, the story can continue as long as we want it to. It is evident that it is God writing the story, and He has been helping Daddy Mike Bamiloye, and we know that as much as he still wants to show and express himself through this storyline, he can. He's God, right? So yeah, we would definitely have a season 9. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on this episode? What are your lessons? What are your expectations for season 9? My expectations for season 9 would definitely be, you know, I think Oloje will be in that state for a while. I think he will be there for a while. It's just me now. I think he will be there for a while. I kind of think Baba will travel to the US again. It's just that's just coming to me. I think Baba will go to the US again. Also, I think the Oloyes will definitely come back to their senses. I think there will be a little bit of the possibility of the Oloyes now moving closer to Baba Abejoye is also high. Those are just like the things coming to mind at the moment. But let me know, what are your expectations for season 9, and what are your lessons or key moments from this episode? On that note, we've come to the end of this review, and hopefully I'll see you guys on my next one. For now, bye.